Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to Code Break episode something or another. Thank you, Sue, because you're showing something that I turned on. Um, StreamYard has a show comments on stage, uh, which I turned on. I was going to ask somebody to test, so thank you, Sue, for doing that right away. Um, this feels like something I may regret, though, just automatically showing comments, but we'll see. Everyone is nice and polite on the internet, right? Um, and I'll also see this little overlay annoys me when I start sharing my screen. Yes, StreamYard's pretty awesome. Like uh, I've never did the. God, my glasses are crooked. That's so weird. Probably the hearing aids. Um, I've never adminned StreamYard. I've only like used it for streams that other people have set up, and it seems nice. Like I have no problems going in here and working and all that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if the uh, comment thing gets annoying. Y'all let me know. Um, that being said, happy July. Since our last time we hung out together, what has happened? Well, at work, we released our new document APIs at Foxit. That's where I got my new job about 6 or so weeks or so ago. But we released a whole new set of APIs related to document management and stuff. If you've not seen my blog post, you should, because I did a quick introduction to it, and I will use my own comment feature like that. I'm curious to see how it handles a link. Uh, yeah, look at that. You probably can't copy and paste that, but if you go to my blog, uh, then you could learn more about it. And I think eventually I'll cover it. We are doing a live stream in about 2 weeks, and I'll share more on my blog when that gets a little bit closer. So that will obviously be focused just on those particular APIs, not what we're talking about today. Personal wise, also since then, I think I picked up and started Spider-Man 2 and finished it in 2 weeks, but it was like the pretty much the only game outside of Black Ops that I played when I was gaming. And I had waited a long time to play. I loved Spider-Man 1, really loved the Miles Morales expansion. Spider-Man 2 was more of the same, but one of the very few games that I actually 100%ed. It's just incredibly fun to play. I finished that. I did a little bit of New Game Plus. I'm probably not going to do too much more on it because I really focused on it quite a bit. I had picked up Star Wars Outlaws about 4 or 5 months ago, and it just, much as I like Star Wars, it just didn't really click with me. But after finishing Spider Man, went back into it, open mind, and played it some more and got a bit more comfortable with it, and I am enjoying it a bit more. I think my biggest issue is that I was hoping for an open world RPG like Witcher 3, and it was more like Uncharted, where it's got RPG elements and it's an open area, not really an open world. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I expected. But I'm dealing with it. I'm enjoying it. It's clicking a bit more now, and it's my current game. And that's what I'm doing to try to keep myself distracted from a whole big bunch of stuff I won't touch. So today we're going to be talking about some AI stuff, some vibe coding, etc. As you probably saw in the description, I absolutely hate that particular name. When I shared this event on one of the Slacks I'm on, someone suggested, I thought it made great sense, especially with the theme of a code break, is that code surfing. And yeah, I much prefer, even though it's not terribly accurate, I think I prefer code surfing to vibe coding. So I have decided, Raymond Camden as a C-list internet celebrity, I've decided that it's not vibe coding anymore. It's going to be code surfing. But let me stop rambling and actually share my screen, Again, I'm working on a new laptop. It's been here about 2 months, so I still feel like compared to me. I'm gonna move y'all over here side and share my screen back on the stage. Make my head small. Sweet. Um, I've done a little bit of some vibe coding with AI. Uh, Really what made it explode in my brain was 4 or so months ago. I was working on some Python code that I had copied and pasted. I will admit to that, and there was part of it I didn't understand. And I remember thinking that's gonna be really hard to like Google, like because I'm not like I didn't even know like what the feature was. I wouldn't even know how to Google, and I just and I went with the Gemini Code Assistant in Visual Studio Code and just asked it to explain it to me, and it did a really great job, and it gave me pointers about what it was so that I could look it up and do my own research, and I did. I'm not just saying that, but it gave me enough to get me over that hump to kind of figure out what to do. And so since then, I've done some experiments with it. I've been mainly doing like some small stuff. So what you're seeing on screen here, and let me share this in the comments, this particular blog post. This was an experiment asking my AI assistant, in this case, Google Gemini, to kind of recreate something that I see in some clickbait, some clicker type games where it would take incredibly large numbers and after a trillion, start using letters to represent scale. So after 999 trillion, it would go to 1A, and then B, C, etc. And then it would do AA all the way to ZZ, and then AAA. It would do an exception for KKK, make it KFC. But basically, use those letters, which I thought actually was a great idea. True story, there actually is a bunch of names for those really large numbers like septillion, sextillion, quadrillion, nontillion, etc. But like no one's gonna know that. Whereas if I see double A, I can kind of mentally scope in my mind that that's like 100 times past a trillion or some scale thereof. So in this blog post, I just essentially experimented with asking Gemini to build a function for that. And as you can see by the various rounds, round four, etc., it was very much an iterative system. So I think I mentioned, yeah, stop counting rounds here. It took about 6 or 7 tries for it to work correctly, but it did. And you can see here my test where it shows these large numbers and they're being rewritten, shows the exception for KKK, doing KFC, BBAA, etc. And all of this code here outside of logit, let me get down here, and that's probably a little small. Let's go on CodePen really big, really for a second here, and make that big, big, big. This format large number, it was 100% driven by Gemini, and it worked pretty good. I also did another experiment with working with the DOM to get a image element and convert it to pixel art. And for that, I used Claude, and I have kind of a love and hate thing with Claude. On Windows, it seems like Claude likes to break every 5 minutes or so. And by break, it just goes to a blank window, which is useless. But on the other hand, when it works really, really well. So I actually got work to pay for a subscription to it. So I'm on the paid tier. But I use Claude for this, and essentially, I have an image in the DOM. I want you to convert that to pixel art and then render it. And again, that was pretty iterative, and Claude did a great job. And hopefully, y'all can see here. Claude did a great job of like explaining what it was doing when I would give it feedback, or like when I pointed out an issue. So, for example, specifically, and something I've run into with JavaScript and images. If you are on foo.com and you have an image source pointing to like unsplash.com, you can sometimes run into cross-origin issues working with that image in JavaScript. And actually, Claude was able to understand when I complained about that, how to fix it, which I liked. So this is that end result as well that I'll open up on CodePen and make it nice and big. There's the original image and there's the pixel art image. And I thought that was great. I had no use for that, but it was fun. So I've done a couple other things. Most recently for Boxlang, which is an open source JVM based language that I play around with. I asked it for help in converting Roman numerals to decimal, which is something that I could have done myself, but I was fine to let AI help. In this case, Gemini. Also, this kind of randomly, I wanted to do a call out, like a visual element on my blog post that stood out. And I asked AI to just, create me a little simple div that would do this. I did the same thing also recently with a park rides API demo I had built, where essentially I asked it to design the whole page. I'm also kind of thinking about doing a new blog theme, and I've done some vibe coding essentially to create some templates. That's a side project. I'm not sure I'm going to launch that or not, but I will say the thing that I'm most proud of, I don't think I ever blogged about, was this little baby here. And I'm showing my age here, but there were a couple of movies that were really influential for me to become a developer, to become a coder. Star Wars was not one of them, but those movies were Tron and War Games. And if you've never seen War Games, there's a part in it where a computer on a big screen is simulating global thermonuclear war, and basically showing nukes taking off and landing, and the world ending. And basically it runs through all these scenarios, trying to find a way to win a nuclear war. It's incredibly depressing, but 12-year-old Ray was like, oh my god, that's so cool. And I took a stab at working with Gemini and doing some vibe coding to have it build what you see here. It did not do it so well at first. In fact, I shared with two of my best friends, its initial attempts at drawing the Earth were horrible. Like, it was, imagine a drunk person who's an alien who's never been to Earth drawing Earth. That's what it did. I think at some point I found an SVG for the continents and states and countries and all that, and actually fed it to the system to do it. And even then, it still needed some help, because interestingly enough, it put all these cities on the map. And as soon as I resized my browser window, it lost everything. The cities were in the ocean, etc. And I tried really hard to get it to fix that, to talk about it needing to be relative and all that, and it never could get past that. So it basically was the game you see now. It was like near perfect, but the cities, I actually ended up having to go and fix it by hand. I had to actually write code for me, but it worked. it was fun, and I really actually like this particular game. It's fun. It has sound as well, but I'm not going to turn on because it's more annoying than anything else. So that's a long way of saying that I've used these tools normally on the small scale. It's been really helpful in helping me with a function that I don't necessarily want to write that will be part of something else. It's been really helpful for CSS, where I just need some basic help getting simple things done that I'm struggling at. And it's been kind of okay on the larger scale in terms of like building an entire web app. I will say that the various tools I've used, they all really, really tend to just love React. Uh, I am I am not a React fan. I'm also generally like not a fan of a build process in general. So Firebase Studio by Google, which is a pretty cool tool. I've used it for a couple of prototypes, and it really, really pushes a build process of some sort, a Node.js server, even just to handle things. And I had to like fight with it to get it to say, hey, you know what? How about just HTML, JavaScript, CSS? That's it. So that's been a bit of a struggle. Um, but I've kind of learned now to kind of preface or include in my prompts, for the love of God, A, don't use React, and B, let's keep it vanilla JavaScript with no Node.js, no TypeScript, just, vanilla, vanilla, vanilla. So all that being said, I actually want to take a stab at building something. And I've gone kind of back and forth in terms of what I thought I would like to build and what tool that I want to use. I am contemplating, and as you say, I have it open up here, just using Copilot and Visual Studio Code. I'm on the free tier for that. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I've used it a little bit. So I thought I could tire to that. And also, I know, or I'm pretty sure, it can actually write to my file system here. So I don't have to worry about like copying and pasting and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do, and I'm actually going to write a notes.txt file. And this is going to be, rename it to game notes. So I want to build a simple game. And it's going to be a maze game where I'm going to run a function that creates a randomized maze, shows it in the web browser. So far, so good. And then use keyboard controls to let you move a little cursor through the maze from a starting position to an end position. And we'll start with that. So we'll say this is called Maze Game. So it's a web app that generates a randomized maze of a set size, places a player character, we'll say @symbol, in the start of the maze, marks an end, marks an exit, how about that? And we'll use, let's say plus. And then let's the player use keyboard controls to navigate the maze. All right. And I should have word wrap on, but I don't. That's all right. So for the heck of it, let's open up our chat, Copilot chat. And well, yes, I want to edit files in agent mode. Yes. Why are you opening a prompt? I don't need a prompt. I trust everything. There we go. All right. So let's, for the heck of it, let's just try these game notes and put it in chat and see what happens. But let's also be very specific and say we are only using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No libraries, no React, no Preact. Don't even say the word React, just vanilla JavaScript. No Node.js for the server. And, again, that should be very, very clear, right? I'm telling it what I'm building, etc. And we'll just hit play and see what happens. So it's plan, HTML container for the maze and instructions. That makes sense. CSS style the maze grid, player, and exit. I'm fine with that. JavaScript generate a random maze using recursive backtracking. I'm vaguely maze has been like something that's been of interest for me forever, pretty much. So I've heard of recursive backtracking. I don't understand it at all, but that's all right. Render the maze as a grid, table or divs, place the player to start, exit, listen for keyboard events, arrow keys, WAS to move player, prevent moving through walls. I'll create the following files. I agree. Index, style, and script. Yeah, I typically use app.js, but that's fine. It made the files and it's done. I don't believe that it's done. But let's look at what it built here. All right, HTML, nice and simple. This is pretty much exactly how I would have done it. I guess I have to click keep. Yep. All right. Styles, I can't do better now. I'm not even gonna look at it. And the JavaScript, okay, I love that it put the size up top in constants. That is perfect. And make this a little bit bigger for y'all out there. And I will keep the changes. Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at another chat as well. I apologize. All right, so in theory, it's done. Let me go into my shell real quick and open up a HTTP server. Open up a web server, localhost 8080. Get the right prompt, right window here, localhost 8080. And look at that. Let's see if it works. All right, I can't go through walls. All right. And let's see if it actually handles getting to the end. You win, and alert message. Look at that. It absolutely worked. And let's reload. All right. Let's push it, right? Let us push it. So go back into the chat. How about, can we change the walls to have like a brick motif so it looks more like walls? So in theory, it could do that with SVG for a brick icon. Could it also find a brick icon? I don't know. Let's just see what it does. So can we style the walls to look like red brick walls? I love how I say we here, and considering that I'm not doing anything. A repeating linear gradient that mimics a brick pattern. Okay, I would not have thought of that at all. Sure, that change sounds fine to me. And let's reload. And did not work at all. Interestingly, so it does have, is it applying, so it applied it to a .wall class. Oh, you know what, it could also be caching. Let me shift reload, aha. All right, it definitely made it red, but it did not apply a brick pattern to it. So let's see how well it responds to me saying that. All right, your change made the walls red, but the gradient isn't really showing. It just looks red. Can you double check that gradient? Thanks for pointing that out. The current gradient is too subtle for a 32 by 32 pixel cell, so the brick pattern isn't visible. Let's see, it's working. All right. I'm just noticing now, and this is my kind of like UX brain turning on. It's interesting that this little icon here represents a change that I have to approve versus just editing. I'll just say, yeah, sure, we'll save that. And shift reload again. Yeah, okay. That looks more like a tartan. That's what they say, like the a kilt. Looks more like a kilt. Do we dare push it? Do I dare, people in chat? Do I dare push it to further, like, shrink the brick size? You think it could handle it? What do y'all say? Should I go ahead and push it, see what happens? I feel like it's close, and I'm worried about screwing things up. I got one person to say, "Oh yes," so let's see. I said, "All right, your last change was close. but it's still too hard to see the pattern. The pattern, I think you need to keep working at it. I think you need to keep, sound like a manager. You need to keep working at it. It's going to use a CSS background, high contrast and sharper mortar tiles. Okay. And just adding more and more lines. Sure. I know what this is doing, mostly. I'll shift reload. Oh, God, no, that made it worse. I mean, it definitely spells like don't go in there. It's like, all right, so let's try this. OMG, you made it worse. Backtrack and try again. And at this point, this is where I'd probably just stop and say, this particular unit I'm going to do by hand. So it changed style again. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop. It actually kind of has a nice little 3D effect. What I'd probably do, and this could be interesting to see, like if I actually modify my code, find like a brick background, small brick background GIF. I don't want a Jiffy for sure. Pixelbait, 382 free GIFs of brick wall pattern. And none of them are loading. That's always a good sign. Make sure I'm actually online. Yeah, why are you not loading at all? That's you're not selling me on your service. Play. Let's try this again. Yeah, it's coming to the same thing. Yeah, I'm just not going to worry about it. I am actually fine with that. And I did. I absolutely said GIF because I am correct. Just deal with it. And Colin, yes, Commodore 64. Back in my day, I had the Apple II. My best friend had the Commodore 64, which I remember it had nicer graphics, but I thought the basic syntax on it was just not as nice. All right, so I feel like this is a good example is of a case where like, all right, it has failed in this case, but that particular part of the code, like we know the CSS for it, we can work on that later. What I want to work on now is actually a cooler modification. And let me, instead of talking about it and then talking about it again, let's describe what I want to do. So now what I want to happen is that when you get to the end of the maze, I want to remove that alert. And basically, I want to move you down a level to the next maze. And I just basically going to be this, the same maze, same random maze again, same idea. You have to move to the next thing. And I want to add a indicator in the UI that says what level you're on. So let's describe both of those. So modify the game such that when you get to the end, it does not use an alert confirmation. Instead, it generates a new random maze, puts the player back at a starting position, and the game starts over. Keep track of the player's level, starts at 1, and each time the player exits the maze, increase the level by 1. Display the level somewhere on top of the page. I don't really care. Let's see what it does. Your friend card and dev card is removed. GIF, GIF. I don't know. There's so many things we could argue about. I'm not going to argue about that. You want a real argument, I could tell you that I think arrays should start at 1, not 0, and I'm convinced that the original developer who first created the array was like drunk and had to explain it the next morning, and they're like, "Oh, why does it start at 0? Oh, it's an offset. Yeah, that's it." All right. So, according to chat, when you reach the exit, a new maze is generated, and the player starts over. The player's level is tracked, starting at 1 increase from each time. Okay, so I need to accept the changes. That change looks good. Yeah, we'll keep it. And JavaScript added a variable for the level, and there we go. Now, it's kind of interesting why it weights 200. So basically, this logic here basically says, if the player's position is at the exit, wait a fifth of a second to restart. Which, yeah, I think game-wise, it does give a little bit of a pause. You know what? Instantaneous would be a bad experience. So that's this right here, this small thing, and it had the similar thing for the alert. I find that really, really smart. That's actually, I think, a great idea. So let's see what happens. We'll reload. It's a little bit off screen, but that's all right. And let's get to the end. And you get to watch me solve a maze in real time. I still remember I had a computer science exercise back in, 1991 or 1992, where the assignment was, we'll give you a maze in like a 2D array, and you have to write a solver for it. And they gave us the algorithm, and we just had to write that. Scott looks like Lode Runner. You are right, actually. I haven't played that since before the 90s. Yeah, so I don't know how much y'all saw on the the chatter blaze covering up the maze. Yeah, right, Scott, you are right. Let's turn that off for a little bit. I'll bring it back. Or actually, how about we just do this a little bit, comb saw like that, and now I can see that little yellow icon. So I'm not sure how much y'all saw via the stream, via the internet, but it does have a pause. I'm gonna stop right here before the plus sign. It does have a nice pause before transition. It's a quick pause, but I think it works great. So we now have a infinite level maze that basically goes forever. And I am curious, it did change, right? Yeah, this is not how I got through before. Okay, so I'm not worried. I had a little concern that it maybe wasn't truly being randomized, but we will confirm. Yeah, that's definitely different. So look at the time. I am curious to see how far we can push it. I am okay with the brick not being great for now. That's what I'm fine. I'm fine with. I'm curious if it could maybe design a better thing for the player, maybe like a little stick figure or something in SVG. Heck, let's just ask it. Say, would you be able to design an SVG, a simple stick figure for the player character, and use that instead of the @ sign? We could also possibly use an emoji as well, but let's see what it says. Oh, Scott, that is a great idea as well. And in theory, so his comment, which I assume y'all can, those of you in the stream, is the comment text actually big enough for you to read? Answer me that first. But his comment was about having open edges on a maze. In theory, that should be a very simple CSS tweak to the wrapper for that. That just adds a border. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. So they used a simple stick figure. They're embedding the SVG directly in the cell using inner HTML, so it must be JavaScript. Let's look at what they did. I am fluent in SVG. I took it in college, and yeah, that's definitely a stick figure. And sure, we'll keep it, and let's see what it does. It's not bad. The white head on top is a little creepy, especially with no eyes and face. But yeah. All right, that's something. So let's now take Scott's suggestion. I will say, like, the different color kind of makes it obvious that there's a wall around it, but I think having a good black border would help. So add a black thin border around the maze to make it more obvious that walls surround it. I mean, I could also add like the brick walls around it, but I feel like that'd make it too big. Let's just try a little thin black border and see what that does. All right, so style.css changed. That looks nice. Yeah, keep it. All right, and we will reload, and there we go. The brick kind of obscures it a tiny bit. Not sure how well y'all can see that, but yeah, I can live with that. I don't know if I can live with just that blank white face. It's like something out of Resident Evil or something. So let's go back to our chat and say, edit the SVG for the stick figure to try and draw two tiny eyes on the face. And again, like the CSS issue, it's very clear in the code where that SVG is. And I could use another tool and just copy and paste that in. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, 2 circles. That makes sense. And let's see if we are less horrifying now. Yeah, actually, that's not bad. And you know what? I'm fine without a face on there. So I really like this. I'm actually just going to do some coding by hand, believe it or not. I want this to be a little bit smaller. So we will inspect this real quick to see what style that is. That's div ID instructions. So we will go into the CSS instructions. Oh, did you not specify div ID equals instructions? Don't you have a style for you don't have, I didn't even notice that. So let's inspect this again. Yeah, it doesn't have one. So we will add is it a class or an ID? It is a ID. Oh, how could I use the inline style for that? That's kind of wonky. I don't agree with that. But you know, one thing at a time. So instructions, and I just want to stop trying to help AI. Font size. I do agree with that. 1.2 EM, and let's see if that makes it a little bit. That made it bigger. Let's try 0.8 EM. There you go. I like that a little bit better. It feels not quite as intrusive. I also maybe want less vertical space after May's game, and they did not specify that either. They just used an H1. Let's move the level display out of the inline HTML because that sucks. foam saw like that. Take that out, drop it in here, format it a little bit, and see if this is good. It did change a little bit. ID level dash. I wonder if it's the dash. I bet level display. I don't like dashes like that anyway. We'll use camel case level display. Inspect. Inspect. You are loading, right? You are not. Let's shift reload. There we go. All right. I typically, so I'm using a Node simple web server called HTTP-server. Its default cache controls aren't great, and normally I have an alias. Actually, you know what? What is my alias? Live. Oh yeah, I'm using a different one there. Never mind. But normally in the past when I've used this server, I turn caching off, so it's a little bit easier to see changes. I also like Scott's comment about using the same color as the bricks. I am going to do that by hand, believe it or not. And let's see, the wall is 600, or actually we'll use this one. All right, and where is that? Where's that container? Right there. All right, Scott, let's see if you're a brilliant designer. Yeah, you know what? I agree 100% with that, Scott. That was brilliant. All right. I think I'm done. I don't want to be done. But I am kind of curious as like one last shoot for the moon modification. Let's add some monsters. Let's start simply by saying there'll be a random monster that moves and instead of me saying this to y'all, that's right. Let's add monsters. So for now, represent them as an asterisk. Add 1 to the maze, and it moves slowly, randomly, unless it sees the player, and that's going to be interesting. Unless it sees the player, and in that case, it will move in the player's direction. If the monster touches the player, or the player touches the monster, the game is over. Use an alert to say as such. Alerts are horrible, but that will do it. So this, I really actually want to make a backup of this just because I like where it is now. CD copy app 1 to app 2. Did that work? Let's app 2. No, copy -R app 1, app 2, ls app 2, ls app 2, app 1. That's fine. Just wanted a quick and dirty backup. All right, so app 1, HTTP server, back up. All right, let's see what happens. Yes, that was my cheap way to use version control. I do know that Visual Studio Code by default will let you look at a version history even without source control. But I just wanted a quick copy. So here's what it's done already. Add a monster object with the position, place it in a random. Oh, I love this. I didn't tell it to place it randomly, but I was assuming that. When the monster has an asterisk, every half second, move the monster. The monster can see it. No walls in a straight line. Move towards it. Otherwise, move randomly. Oh, I thought it was done. The monster touches the player, show an alert. Okay, so. All right, I can't believe it did all that. It only touched the script. So let's just keep it. And let's see what happened. Let's see if we have a monster. Oh, look, there it is. Oh, and I have no way out. Let's see if it leaves. If it doesn't leave, I'm just gonna die. Um, I really needed to not do that. It's so unfair. But for a maze, it really only has one path. Yeah, that's probably not going to be a good game. But let's see if I can get it to chase me. Oh, it's hauling ass now. Right, in theory, if it sees me, look at that beeline right to me. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. And I lost it by going around the corner. Okay, not a very intelligent monster. Let's go ahead and let it kill us. Game over. The monster got you, and just automatically restarted. Well, considering that there's not a lot of branching in this particular maze, I mean, there's some, like right there. Like, it's almost going to be impossible to do this with the monster because the monster is going to be like blocking the exit, which makes for a more thrilling game. But actually, I could lead it away. Again, I'm not sure how much y'all are seeing. Yeah, I'm trying to get it to follow me, but that killed me. All right. Yeah. Look at that. All right. You know what? I'm not going to keep watching this because it's going to freak me out. All right. So let's go back to my big giant head. I should probably warn y'all before I do that. It's a few minutes earlier than I like to be. By the way, nobody answered. Is that chat, like, can y'all actually read that text? And my tester will be Scott, because I know he needs his fonts a little big. So do I. It is hard. Yeah, I don't know. So it's not awesome. There you go. That's all I needed to hear. In StreamYard, it's only a toggle. Like, I have no options for like the size or anything like that. Oh, what the heck is that? Oh, it's full screen. So unfortunately, I don't think I into it. And if not, I'll go back to just showing stuff. I kind of like the fact that it's automatic, because sometimes I'll see a cool comment and I'll smile and I not think to show it. But we'll see. I'll also do some Googling to see if people have commented about being able to resize the chat window. That is it. Okay, one thing. Scott says we have our own chat window. So, Scott, are you on YouTube or LinkedIn? And I wonder if that makes a difference. So I bet YouTube has its own chat window. Thank you, Colin. I appreciate that. Give Scott a second here to respond. YouTube has its own chat. Okay, so I bet. So those of you on YouTube, are you seeing the small little chat window here in the lower right-hand corner that I'm talking about? I hope y'all are seeing it, because otherwise you're gonna think I'm more crazy than I am. Because if you're seeing it and seeing YouTube chat, then then yeah, that feels like, yeah, it feels like too much. Okay, cool feature. We'll come back to it in the future, maybe. But bye-bye to the chat window. I don't actually have a topic for my next session yet, but it's going to be in 2 weeks from today, which will be the 22nd. I need to get to Brian some kind of topic. This was really fun. I will share on my blog. I will share somewhere. I will share this code for y'all to play with and take on your own. And thank y'all so much. Thank you for being so communicative and chatty. It makes me feel like I'm not talking to a giant void. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.